Hey guys, welcome to the Athfix. In this video, we are going to discuss about the cascading style sheets, which means CSS. Well, CSS is an important aspect in the web development as it gives the presentation look to the website. Yes, it is important. If you compare the Facebook of 2004 and 2021, you will find a lot of a difference because of this CSS. Well, CSS giving the presentation look as well as it will make a separate style from the content. If you have ever gone to the tags in the HTML which I have discussed in the previous videos, if you have never gone through it, I will recommend you to go through it. Well, at there I have explained about the attribute style. Well, style attribute used to give the presentation look to the website. Well, we use style and we give the property and values, but it is not enough because we are using the style for that particular tag, which is not enough. We have to use the style for whole website. Therefore, we have created the new things. We will discuss about it in a further presentation. We will go with the agenda. When I am discussing about agenda, we will discuss the CSS syntax. We go with the selector, working with the text, CSS box model, background style, styling the list, styling the table, styling the links and positioning the elements, and we will discuss about the overflow and scroll. There are three types of a CSS which we are going to discuss about. As we have discussed about attribute style, this is termed as inline CSS. Well, we use the style attribute and we give the property and value to it. As like that, it will behave or it will give the presentation look to that. If we are using it for the p tag and we are giving the style, it will allocate the presentation look for that p only, not for all. And next, going to the internal CSS. For the internal CSS, we use the tag style. We are not giving the attribute, we are using the style tags. At there, we use the CSS properties and we give the presentation look to the other elements of it. When it comes to the external, we are separately creating a file with the extension of .css and we are linking that file to this HTML and it will give the presentation look to these HTML elements. When I am talking about the CSS syntax, now in the VS Code we are going to add those three types of CSS, which is inline, internal and external. Well, inline CSS is created with the attribute of a style. I will show you. First of all, we have the tag of p, then we must have the attribute style, and in the style we give the styling, like I am giving the color of that p tag, means the font color of that p tag must be red, and I am using the font size is around 34 pixel. Now I created a text which is red in color and font size of 34 pixel. I am using the hello world and I will save it, open it in a default browser. As you can have a look at here, I have created a text which is a 34 pixel in size and it is in a red color. This is how we create the inline CSS. We use an attribute of style and we use a property. And when we are creating the internal CSS, we use the attribute, we use the tag style. What is that style? We use this tag and in this tag we will mention about that p, means how the color of that paragraph must be and what are the font size, font weight, and we'll do a lot of stuff in here. First of all, we have to add the selector. I am adding the selector is p, and next I am using the property of color must be red, and I am using the font weight is around I will take 20 pixel and I will save it and open it in a default browser. As you can have a look at here, I have created a text which is red in color and also 20 pixel. It is a 20 pixel text, and this is how we create the internal CSS. When we are creating the external CSS, we must have a file of i.css. Here I have created a file i.css in which I will write some of the code. As you can have a look at here, I have used the font family Courier New Sans Serif, because of which it is getting its font as a Courier New. If I will change it, I just remove it and I will save it and I just reload the page. As you can have a look at here, it is a text which is a black in color because we haven't added any of the styles to it. Now I will create the external CSS. As you can have a look at here, I have created a file i.css. When we create a file i.css, we have to link that file to the HTML which we are giving the styling. Here I have created i.css, and here I am using a link. In the link I am giving a href link, and here in the href the link is i.css file, and we have to mention what type of file it is. Because I am using the styling, I am mentioning it is a style sheet. This is how we link the CSS file in the HTML. After linking that, we will add the tag here. Here I am using the selector p, and I am using the property equal to color and value equal to red. And next I am using the property equal to font weight, and I am using its weight must be a bold, therefore I am using the bolder, and I will save it and open it in a default browser. As you can have a look at here, it is a bold font with a red color. This is how we create the external CSS. This is all about the 3 types of CSS. Well, CSS syntax has 3 main elements. First one is a selector, second one is a property, and third one is value. When we are talking about the selector, selectors are of many types, and we will discuss about it. And there are many of the properties like color, background, and many more, and values like red, green, blue, and many more. These are the properties, values, and selector. And coming to the selector, there are mainly 4 types of selector. First one is a tag selector, second one is ID selector, third one is a class selector, fourth one is descendant selector. When I am coming to the tag selector. Well, tag selector, for which we use the tags p, and we give the property and value to it. We are using the p tag which we have created in the HTML, and we are giving the property name and the value. Property equal to color. If you give the value equal to red, then the text of that p get the red color. And when I am coming to the ID, we create a tag with the attribute of ID equal to something, and we call that ID with the hash mark, hash ID, and we are giving the property and value. And coming to the class, when we are using the class, we have to give a class name to the tag which we have used in the HTML, and we have to call that class with a dot class name, and we have to give property and value. At last we have descendant. When we are using the descendant, it is just like it is inheriting the properties of its parent. Just like we have created a p tag which has a child node div, and we have to call that div. Therefore I am using p nth child. When I am using p nth child, it is calling that div, and we can give the property and value to it. We will discuss about it in VS Code for further clarifications. We will go with the next one. As you know, there are almost 4 types of a selector which are used in CSS, which includes the tag selector and class selector, ID selector, and descendant selector. When I'm talking about a tag selector, we have to create a tag of anything. I created a tag of a p. As you can have a look at here, it is a tag which is created with the letter p. And next I have created a class with the name of a class. You can take any of the name. I am using just a class. Here I have created a selector of a class using the attribute class, and I am giving some random name. Just I have given the class, I will use some random name. I use ULO, some random name, and to create any ID, we have to use the ID attribute with its name. Well, here I use ID. I just use some random. I will use the OL. At last we have O, and I'm using a list around it, list. And I just copy the whole text and I will paste between the list, Control V. And as you can have a look at here, I have created 4 selectors with the p tag and a class of ULO and ID of OL and list. And in the CSS, I will save it here, and in the CSS I have to call them. To call them, if it is a normal tag, we have to use the text in between those tags. If I created a p tag, I have to call p, and I have to give some of the styling. When I'm creating the tag of header or navigation, I have to use them in the CSS. Here I am using the P tag. As you can have a look at here, I am using the P tag. Therefore in the CSS I will call that P. Here I am calling the P, I am giving some color equal to red, and I will save it. And in HTML I will open it in a default browser, and as you can have a look at here, I have created a text which is with the red color. Almost all of them three are showing the red color, because for all of them I use a P tag only. This is how the tag selector works. When I am using the class selector, I have to call that class name. Here what is the class name? Class name is ULO. ULO is a class name, and I have to call that class name using that dot and the class name. What is the class name? Class name is ULO. Now I have called that class name using the dot. Now I have to use some color. I am giving the property equal to blue, and I have used the class name using the dot, and I just open it in a browser, and I will reload it. As you can have a look at here, for the text which is with the class name is getting the blue color. This is how class selector works. When I am talking about ID selector, you have to call the ID name. What is the ID name? ID name is OL. As you can have a look at here, the ID name is OL. To call that OL, we have to use the hash mark. We have to use the hash mark and OL. To call any of the ID, we have to use the hash mark and ID name. I'm using the hash mark and ID name, and I will give color equal to orange. Color equal to orange. I will save it and open it in a browser, and I will reload it. As you can have a look at here, the third one, which is the ID selector, getting its color as orange because we have used a color equal to orange. And this is about the ID selector. At last we use a descendant selector to select any descendant. Here I have created the tag of O with its child node list. List contain the text of hello world, and here I will use O, and next I will use list, and next I will give color equal to pink. I'm using the color equal to pink, and I will save it and reload the page. As you can have a look at here, we have hello, which is a P tag, and hello world, which is with the class name, and hello world, which is with ID name. At last we have O list, which is getting the pink color because we have used O list equal to pink color. This is how the descendant works. This is all about the selector. Well, do subscribe our channel for regular updates. Thank you.